So, and I'm not coming in here in a good mood right now. I got to tell you, we just lost our rec playoff game. Good season from the kids that I coach, third and fourth graders. Had a good season. They got better as the season went along, which is kind of the point, right? Better as a team, better individually. My son Raj played very well. He's really good for a third grader. I'm proud of him. But it's always tough to lose. It's always tough to see your team lose. It's not, I guess, as dire a situation for third and fourth graders as it is for the Brooklyn Nets. Last night around this time, I was not watching the Nets get hammered by the Orlando Magic. I was not watching that because I was sitting in here doing this show. Shout out to Low Key and Rob Markman talking about Jay-Z, one of my favorite things to talk about. Jay-Z, we ranked the albums, discussed how many classics he has, and all that on the show yesterday. So make sure you check that out if you haven't checked it out yet. Like, subscribe, comment, all that. If you notice, if you comment, I get back to the comments later after the fact. But I didn't really process what happened to the Nets last night because really I haven't been processing what happened to the Nets or what's happened with the Nets in a little while because it's been so bad. I mean, even before Jacques Vaughn got fired, to the point where Jacques Vaughn got fired, to now where the Nets, I don't know what happened because there was a point in time in this season where I was feeling good. I felt the vibes were good with the team. It felt like they were heading in the right direction in the sense of when I say the right direction, meaning they were going to win more games than they lose or, right around that, being 500 and look like a team that was on the come up that would be desirable for, players to want to come to or, a destination. Not to say they aren't still, because I don't know if this season takes away from the Nets as a destination. It's still New York. It's still, you forget how much one player can change in the NBA. It's funny because that works in basketball, period. I just was talking about losing with the third and fourth graders, but one player really, really beat us tonight, just straight line drives over and over again. We couldn't stop him. And that makes a big difference in the NBA as well. So, this idea that Mikal Bridges is a franchise player or not a franchise player, that's all stupid talk. I mean, he's a good player. He's a very good player. The issue with Bridges and the Nets is they don't have anybody else on his level or comparable. The only guy who you could argue is comparable, or the only guys, one is Ben Simmons, who's broken. The other is Cam Thomas, who's also injured right now. And the Nets have never had that player that's felt really homegrown. Jason Kidd is probably the closest, and even he wasn't homegrown at the time. That's back in New Jersey. In Brooklyn, it's been all the mercenaries, and Kyrie and KD and everything like that. How was the coach of the rec team? I can't say I had my best game because we lost either, right? I don't know if I can't get fired because the season is over. But that, I just haven't been that into the Nets as of late. As a result, I don't like being miserable. And I'm going to get it rubbed in my face, too, because I did the bit about the Nets winning the Suns trade, and Nets Suns fans have not let that go. They have certainly not let that go. Here, let me play it for you right now. I might as well, make fun of myself. Not to say I'm wrong yet either, because the Nets still do hold those Suns picks, and those Suns picks are valuable. You can't forget the fact that those Suns picks are valuable and could be extremely valuable. But here was the video that I did at the time. The Nets won the Kevin Durant trade with the Suns because not only did they get a star in Mikal Bridges, but a really good basketball player in Cam Johnson as well. Not to mention 4 first-round picks and some swaps, which is great for the future. But Brooklyn did just beat Phoenix and has a better record on the season. So it's safe to say the Nets' victory was more than just one game. All right. So, yeah, that looks silly. I mean, especially I did it for the timing's sake. They had just beaten the Suns at that time. So, I was feeling it a little bit. And I did feel good about that trade. And I still don't think that's a horrible trade in retrospect. We haven't seen the returns on that trade. I just don't know if Sean Marks should be the one following up on the trade anymore. It might be time for the Nets to move on from Sean Marks. And I didn't think that up until recently, because he did do a good job getting them out of the situation they were in before KD and Kyrie. He did bring in KD and Kyrie. He did build what I think was a championship level team that just got unlucky. Because sometimes you have to factor in, sometimes it's just luck. And there was bad luck on the Nets. But at this point, it might just be time for a clean sweep and regime change. And everybody, you can go to the owner, but the owner doesn't get changed. And if you look at the Knicks still have the same owner. It's still James Dolan over there in New York. So it's not exactly like, you can't have success in spite of the owner. And we haven't heard the name James Dolan other than like facial recognition technology in a minute, because he finally made the right hire in Leon Rose, who's done a good job stewarding that team. So I think, maybe it's somebody else that has to take the reins of the Nets. And until they can acquire another top level player or pick another direction, everybody goes with the Houston trade, the bridge. That trade could still be there in the summer. First of all, I don't believe for a second they were getting all their picks back. I don't believe that for a second. You can say the reporting's out there and whatnot. There's always reporting in the NBA that's not necessarily completely true. Do I believe Houston may have offered some of the package back? Yes. Do I believe they offered every pick back? No, I don't believe that. But that deal would still be there in the summer. Why can't they make that deal around the draft if they wanted to? Why would it change? Like, Bridges' value has not gone down. It's silly. You think NBA executives are that stupid and hasty and judgmental off a game or two where he's slumping? He still had a good season. He still fits in on any team. He still could be a piece that the Nets build with as well. But it's a miserable and lost season. There's no sugarcoating that. They're stuck with Ben Simmons' contract. There's no sugarcoating that. They don't have, the guy that you're saying is the lead player for them going forward. There's no sugarcoating that. Cam Thomas has his flaws, as good and as much potential as he has. There's no sugarcoating that. And their draft picks don't come home to roost for a few years. There's no sugarcoating that. So we'll see what happens in the summer. I'm just not sure Sean Marks should be the guy making those decisions anymore. We got a comment coming in from DS Sahande. I want to say, thoughts on Wembanyama? I mean, what did Victor Wembanyama say the other day? That was real. He said after a game where he had some sort of statistical accomplishment that put him in the same sentence with Michael Jordan for a second, he went out and said, did it happen in a win? And look, you can celebrate getting better. You can celebrate individual accomplishments in a loss. I'm not saying you can't. But boy, is it nice to see a kid wired that way, right? It's nice to see a kid wired that way, where in a day and age, we're worried about whether people try in the All-Star game and how many games players have to play. And I'm not saying Vic hasn't been load managed or won't be load managed. I mean, my biggest concern with him is injury because of how freakishly tall he is. But he's got the right head on his shoulders to go with prodigious talent. I mean, you can't teach the freakish ability that Victor Wembanyama has. He's a freak. I mean, defensively, he's got a chance to be the greatest defensive player of all time. And offensively, I don't think he's got a chance to be the greatest offensive player of all time because I just don't see him. I think in today's NBA, in order to be like truly that level status, you have to be able to be the guy who has the ball and is making everything happen. But beyond that, as a modern big, because even Jokic is the guy who has the ball, right? Like, even though he's not dribbling, he has the ball, he's facilitating everything. It used to be where my hang up with Jokic was that he wasn't the guy bringing the ball, but he's sort of the point guard in the post. And then he became such a knockdown shooter and everything. Jokic is unbelievable. But Vic could be offensively like maybe, like some sort of Porzingis meets KD meets who's somebody that can finish around the rim that's really tall too. A lob threat hybrid and could be the best defensive player of all time. So with his head wired on the way it is, what's not to like about Victor Wembanyama? Ernesto says, just become a Knicks fan, Robin. It's about time. I can't do that. I can't because I rooted for the Knicks and I pulled for the Knicks, and I'm happy the Knicks are doing well. And I've told this story a million times. Coming to New York, where they weren't talking about New York basketball and pushing for New York basketball to be repped in the city, I tried to will the Knicks to be good. I convinced myself on Eddie Curry. I convinced myself on Isaiah Thomas moves. I rationalized all that stuff. I was there for Linsanity, the coolest story I've ever covered, and I was just sort of beaten down over the years from the team itself and just the vibe and the atmosphere. Trust me, at that time. But that's different now. But I can't do what I did and decide, all right, I'm a Nets fan and go all in and then abandon ship and go the other way. Here's the thing. I don't really have teams. That's what made it, I grew up in a weird situation where I lived outside of Philly until I was 12. So I was rooting for the Philadelphia area teams, the Eagles and the Sixers. And then I moved to Southern Maryland, where they root for the Washington football team. And then I moved to New York, where they, of course, so I'm kind of an NFC East fan. And if I was being real, I was probably an Eagles fan before anything else. But it wasn't like my dad wasn't a hardcore enough fan where it was ingrained in my soul. But I like the Eagles and the Giants, which is a weird thing to say. And then I jumped in with the Nets when I had the kids, and I liked the direction that they were going in. I guess I'm a Yankees fan because of Jay-Z. Made the Yankee hat more famous than a Yankee can because I was a Maryland kid wanting to be a New Yorker. But I'm glad the Knicks are doing well. I am. The Nets, it's like they traded places, I just watched that Captain Marvel movie the other day for the first time, and they were switching places all over the place. I still don't know what it was about, by the way. Yeah, of course he would call me a fraud. I had a little thing going on with Don back in the day, and shouts to his brother for having me on Busted Open. And I always liked Don. But Kay would gas him up and stuff, so it was a thing. Giants and Eagles fan blast me. Sorry, I don't believe in fan rules. Like, you can root for whatever damn team you want to root for. And when I articulate the reason, you can't understand why I would like both those teams. I lived in every NFC East territory but Dallas. So I have some sort of affinity for all the NFC East teams other than the Cowboys. But I also, the Washington team, I just never rocked with. I'm not trying to be PC guy. I didn't like the name when I was a child. I remember asking there was two questions I remember asking my dad. One is, what if you put another color in front of skins? Would that be okay? And the other one was, in Walmart, they used to sell guns and they wouldn't sell explicit CDs. And I was like, how come you could buy a gun but not an explicit CD? No joke. Those were questions I asked as a kid. A question that's being asked by kids right now. Paul George, the GOAT. I did a little video on this earlier today. Mispronounced his name, so I apologize. It's Kian Anthony, I believe. I think I said Keon. That's a name I'm more familiar with. And my son Raj has a friend named Keon as well. But he did an interview with his mom, Lala Kian did. And here's what he had to say about Paul George. Let me share that real quick with you, because this is funny to me.
Mine is this kid I know named Kian Anthony.
Mine? Oh, you gotta explain why.
You want me to talk about you? Because for 9 months of my life, I threw up every single day, 9 times a day, laid on a cold bathroom floor because I had the worst and most difficult pregnancy ever. That is why seeing you now on the court and being so amazing, you make your mom so proud. And you are my GOAT basketball player.
My GOAT? Oh, I appreciate that. My GOAT is Paul George.
Are you? I'm leaving.
Paul George is the best player ever. Kobe, Paul George.
When are you going to say
Carmelo
your
Anthony.
The fact that you didn't say your dad.
I mean, he shouldn't have said Carmelo Anthony either. Like, that's not something he should have said. But Paul George, this is very strange to me because he's the second younger player with Brandon Miller. Maybe there's somebody else, but I can remember Brandon Miller saying it along with him that Paul George is the GOAT. And I would have never you could have, before I knew that these kids said this, you could have given me a million guesses and I would have never thought anyone would call Paul George the GOAT, right? But there you have it. And I'm trying to figure out where that comes from. I think it's the prototype, right? Like, you got these longer kids who model their game after him. And my son also plays AAU basketball, and there's a big emphasis on developing skill, which is good. Sometimes I think, these kids don't learn the competitiveness at times or how to share the basketball and some of those things. But his coach, shout out to Slow-Mo, and Coach Mark there, done a fantastic job developing Raj. So I don't have no complaints there. He went from understanding the game well and shooting ball to being able to handle it and drive and attack and all that. But I think in the AAU basketball culture, there's a big emphasis on developing skill. So when you see Paul George, you see he's got all the skills. Paul George can handle, he can shoot, he can play defense. There's no hole in his game, right? Like, he checks every box. But that doesn't lead to him being the GOAT because he doesn't have the other stuff, that intangible, the it. And I don't want this to come off like a diss at Paul George, who's a Hall of Famer, I would say, going forward, and an excellent player, and gave the Heat, a run for their money when he was with the Pacers. I got nothing bad to say about Paul George. Great podcast, by the way. He's very good at that. But, for all the Michael Jordan killer instinct talk and Kobe Bryant Mamba mentality talk, to LeBron James and his body of work and the freakish, just like irresistible force that he is, in unison with his basketball genius, like seeing the floor. The fact that somebody could say Paul George is the GOAT is just wild. Just a wild thing to say. So I think you got to draw a distinction between favorite and greatest. And that's where we're getting lost a little bit with Paul George. The old guys versus the younger guy, little beef on the old radio station was good radio. That he's going back to 98.7. Yeah. I mean, I had fans show up to K parties. Like, it was a good time. And some of you guys are still here. That's the coolest thing about it. Like, about doing this show here again, is how many of you came back to me. That sounds weird. How many of you have wanted to follow my career and support and conversate? It means a lot. It reinforces my confidence. And validates what I've done over the years. And it's just fun talking with you guys too. Dunn says the NBA Hall of Fame threshold is low as, yeah, but Paul George deserves it. I think he's a 9-time All-Star. I don't think Paul George, the bar is lowered for him. I think he deservedly should be in the Hall of Fame. Steph M. His shot. Fan dating back to the days with Max on 1050. You guys were ahead of the times. Now all the hosts try to mix humor instead of just sticking to sports. Long live. Schedule a game against the New York Knicks. Yeah, I used to do comedy bits on the show. And one of them was like, how do you get better as a basketball player? Like, one of these self-help videos. Schedule a game against the New York Knicks. That's how you get better. And we were. That's a fact. We were ahead of our time on Kellerman's show. We were sort of Le Batard-esque in a way before Le Batard. And I here's the secret. I used to get called into the principal's office every day, basically every day. Now, I was a kid, so I was a little like, I was always respectful. Don't get me wrong. I've never been a jerk, but I was a little cocky maybe and feeling myself and all that, and not realizing how to play the game at that point, if you will. But when we would get yelled at all the time for the stuff that we did. The Killer Animal Tournament, which people have done and ripped off. We seeded all the animals, and I think it was the polar bear, Siberian tiger, Nile crocodile, and what was the other one? One other one were the number 1 seeds in the killer animals. Maybe it was like an elephant or something in the killer animal tour, unless elephants weren't in there because they're herbivores. We did the superhero football team. We built the superhero football team. We did all this stuff. We used to get in trouble all the time. And it was always me that got in trouble because I was the producer. And then I got kicked off the show and off the air and brought back on the show and on the air. And Max was very, at that point in his career, a little hot-headed on the air in a sense, little bravado, and which didn't, he helped me out as far as get me on the air and get me into that station, period. But, also get me into the principal's office. I think for sure. But yeah, and Louis, shouts to Louis too. I still in contact with Louis as well. Yeah, I mean, like we were in trouble all the time. But I survived and advanced and got my own show eventually. Got the show with Ruco first, and Ryan's still a friend of mine as well. He's going to be on this show sooner rather than later. So will Brandon Tierney, who was back at that station at that day. He actually lives in my neighborhood. So he'll be on the show before too long. I'd say never about this, but I will be on CBS Sports Radio tomorrow. Tomorrow I will be on CBS Sports Radio, making my return there from 3 to 6. I'm going into the studio for it. I haven't been in the studio in a minute, so I figured it was a good look to go into the studio. I will be in the studio, same place WFAN is, tomorrow, 3 to 6. I will be there. So check that out. As far as the show tomorrow night, by the way, because I'll be in the city till 6, I got to figure it out as I get back here. I will try to do the show. Might be a little later. I'm trying to be consistent, at least in these beginning stages. So I will try to do this show as well. But I'll make an announcement if anything changes. Let me know if you guys want me to take, or if you're okay with me taking the day off, or you want me to start later or whatnot. I don't know if I'll be able to schedule an interview to pre-tape because I'm going to have to get, I got to do my stuff at SI in the morning and then get to the city. So I probably won't have time to pre-tape anything. So I'll have to jump on when I get back if everybody wants that to happen. Rob Minter, Rob, good to see you. Isaiah Minter, Rob, good to see you, man. Yeah, good to see you as well. good to see you as well. Ernesto says I can take off. I don't know if everybody else feels the same way. Dunn says he'll support. Moy says that show's on YouTube every day, but it's Zach Gelb's show. I don't know if it will be on YouTube. I have no idea. I haven't gotten that far into the conversation or the machinations over there. I got asked if I wanted to come back, and I said yes. That's where I am over there. But if I am taking off tomorrow, I'll let you know. But if you guys want me to, if enough of you guys want me to make it, I will make it. I don't think I've missed the show since I started here, but I think we're in a nice little rhythm too. And now we're getting to the point where I need to start adapting this a little bit and working around some events and building up some production value and working in more guests. Did you guys like the show last night? The Jay-Z, did you guys see that? Because I know the comments, it's funny because some of the people in the comments today weren't in the comments yesterday for that show, but there were still a lot of comments in that show and good viewership retention for that show. Again, shouts to Rob Markman and Low Key. We actually talked about making that a recurring thing. So we will see. Dunn says he missed it and wish he hadn't. Moish says any SI update. No, the update is that there's no update. It's in limbo. They did throw a party over our dead bodies down at the Super Bowl. Parent company. But we'll see. I'm still working at SI. I'm still at SI every single day. Before I come do here, before I coach basketball, before I do all those other things. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, share, all that stuff. Let me know if I can take off tomorrow, or if you need me to show up later in the night, please. I send me that in the comments. And it's okay. You don't have to feel bad. Either way, tell me if you need me to show up, or you're okay with me taking off, depending on how the timing works out. Last thing, or a couple of the last things I wanted to get to tonight. Well, actually, let me take this banner down first, and let's get into remembering Richard Lewis for a second, which if I'm being completely honest, I mean, I saw Richard Lewis in plenty of things, but I know Richard Lewis because of Curb Your Enthusiasm. And I saw a tweet from Albert Brooks earlier today, and it's a shame because when people die, they do get all the love, and there's a brilliant episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm where Albert Brooks has a funeral before he dies because he's like, why would I have a funeral after I die? And that's because, you get shown the love after you die and you can't really, experience it. And I wish people did get their flowers before they were gone. Richard Lewis deserved his flowers. He did a great job on that show. It was the best he's ever been. Here's a Jimmy Traina loves Curb Your Enthusiasm. I don't even remember this scene off rip, but I'm going to trust his judgment on this. Let's play a scene of Richard Lewis on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Napkins does a person need to get through a sandwich?
I don't know. I use a lot of napkins. Always, every meal.
You should bring a bath towel to eat. That's what you should bring.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. Hey man, good to see you. Long time.
Good to see you.
I'm
What do
sorry,
you like to
yeah.
do? I don't know what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We ordered. We couldn't wait.
I can
Yeah.
see, but I want to eat something. I'm famished, so I'm starved.
Oh, move over.
I'm starved.
You should.
What? No, you should.
What's going on? Can I sit down?
Come on, scoot you over.
How many years you know this guy? I mean, you're close friends.
You're right. I know him longer, so he should sit over there because I'm actually going to be talking to him more than you.
Yeah.
So I should have eye contact with him as opposed to turning around and straightening my neck.
And, I'm a lefty. I can't.
Yeah, but it'll be on your right. It works to your advantage.
Look, the only reason you want me to slide over is because you want the luxury suite.
Of course I want the luxury suite. You want the luxury suite too?
Yes, I do. You're right.
Yeah.
All right, I
Come
do.
on, yeah.
But you. Hey.
Oh my God.
Which is a good segue, RIP to Richard Lewis, into what I wanted to do as an honor to him in a sense, because Curb Your Enthusiasm is so significant where that's where all my positive, or not all of them, but the majority of my positive memories come for Richard Lewis. And even a guy like Albert Brooks, as great as he is, I like the movie where he is trying to get into heaven. Oh, I forget the name of that movie, but I have an affinity for Albert Brooks due to Curb Your Enthusiasm. I have an affinity for JB Smoove due to Curb Your Enthusiasm. I have an affinity for RIP Marty Funkhauser due to Curb Your Enthusiasm. And Seinfeld is such a great show, such an iconic show. Will live forever. And there's great character. Elaine is my favorite character on Seinfeld. I think Julia Louis-Dreyfus just murders that role. Jason Alexander is George, obviously, when is based on Larry David. Kramer's that bonkers character, and there's so many great Seinfeld episodes. But I would argue Curb is funnier, just like laugh out loud funny. Curb is funnier. So I wanted to see what you guys maybe thought about that. Danny Adams says Curb makes Seinfeld even better. Yeah, in retrospect, it does. In retrospect, it does. It does make it better. Kevin Zwicker says, I just recently binged Curb and I just got caught up. So losing Richard Lewis hit like a ton of bricks. Yeah, I have to watch this new season. Is the new season good? I'll check it out. But yeah, RIP to Richard Lewis. Ernesto says, don't forget Super Dave. That's what I meant by that's Marty Funkhauser. Super Dave. Kevin Zwicker says, take off, Rob. You've been consistent enough so far. So people are giving me the chance to maybe take off. Okay. If you guys are saying it, I'll let you know the status tomorrow. But I do. If maybe if something goes down, I'll hop on, and if something doesn't, I'll take off. So that consider that your announcement. Steph M, his shot found the wild animal tournament bracket. Send it over. Send it in the How do you tweet it? DM me or something on Twitter or somewhere. Or even YouTube comment. I'll pull it up and show it at some point. And then there was one other death today I wanted to acknowledge, and that is Virgil. If you guys don't remember, you're talking, I'm going to guess, late 80s, early 90s professional wrestling. I don't know if this is a character that you could get away with today. I mean, there was a lot of characters back in the day that really pushed the envelope where it was you had the devious one, Mr. Fuji, and Kamala, the Ugandan giant, and so on and so forth. But you had Virgil, who was the bodyguard for the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and just took his ish all the time until he finally got that big win over the $1 Million Man. I don't know what the copyright rules are on this. So if anybody's watching some of this stuff later, sometimes YouTube will make me trim certain sections out if they violate copyrights. But I feel like when we're honoring somebody like this, I want to share some of these moments. So I'm going to pull up something on Virgil. Let's take a watch of that as well. Technology is pretty cool. They were waiting for it. Wow, what a moment for Virgil. You forget how great a character the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, was as well. Just a tremendous character. So R.I.P. to Virgil. Those wrestling characters, they leave a mark on you. And even though he was not one of those guys that will, go down as a legend of professional wrestling, he made an impact on people. And I hope his family knows that. And also, like I said, RIP to Richard Lewis, the same thing. You saw the outpouring of support he got today. And all these things, like I see, Richard Lewis, neither of these guys was like super young. Virgil wasn't very old, but Richard Lewis in his 70s, not like super, but it does make it, you think about like parents, in their age, and think about me, and start counting the day. A few decades left, gotta get stuff done and accomplished. Life is precious and finite. And I appreciate, honestly, you guys spending these moments of your life that you do here with me. All right, that's what I had planned for the show today. So any more comments, get them in, and I will, get to whatever comments I can before I wrap up tonight. But that's what I had on the docket. I think, we covered a lot here on the show. Had the big show yesterday, which again was a lot of fun to do. Shout out to those guys for making it happen at the spur of the moment. And make sure you check that out if you haven't seen it. We went over Jay-Z's albums and determined how many classics he has, and landed on anywhere from 4 to 8. Basically, it was like the undeniable classics versus the arguable classics. The undeniable ones being Reasonable Doubt, Blueprint, Black Album, 444, and the arguable ones being Volume 2, the impact it had, launching his career in a sense. American Gangster, Volume 1, which has a couple of missteps, but just unbelievable songs on it, and Watch the Throne, depending on if you count it. And that was the tally for those Jay-Z albums. But that was yesterday's episode, so you can go check that out. Of course, all these episodes are live, but they're available after the fact. So make sure you go and you like and subscribe, and comment and share and all that as we roll on. I mean, I showed the stats the other day, but it's pretty cool. Let me see if I pull it up on my phone. This is like a screenshot, and you guys did this. It's actually higher now than it was then when I initially shared this. But check that out. We just started this thing, right? Already 1,000 subscribers. We're up at like 300,000 views. Thousands of hours of watch time, all that stuff, and we just started. So, only place to go is up, but we already got hit the ground running, I guess you would say, and that's a testament to you guys. Paul George's GOAT is like mayo is the best condiment. I don't know. I think mayo would get more votes as the best condiment than Paul George. I mean, mayo's at worst. I don't even really like mayo, but it's at worst, it would get an answer as like a top 3 condiment. Paul George should not be any top 3 debate either. Kevin Zwicker, when you met Jay-Z, was it hard for you not to fan out, or was it easy to play it cool? Look, everybody's just a person to me. I don't usually stop people for photos, and I stopped Hove for a photo. That's one of the only people I stopped for a photo. Just because I knew, like, I'm with Jay-Z, I got to stop the guy for a picture. But it was those back-to-back games where the Knicks played the Lakers and the Cavs. So they played LeBron and they played Kobe. And Kobe had like a 60-plus point game, and LeBron had, I want to say, a 50-point triple-double. And we were on the way out, and we're in the freight elevator, and my buddy Jared Bodden was with me, took this blurry picture, and I had asked Jay-Z in the elevator, I said, you know, when is Watch the Throne coming out? And he said, when it's done. And there you have it. Oh, here's the Killer Animal Tournament. All right, got sent it here. So the number 1 seeds were the African elephant, the saltwater crocodile, the tiger, and the polar bear. The tiger had a bunny rabbit in the first round. Can you see that, guys? I don't know if it's going to come out great, but that's awesome that somebody had that saved. Appreciate you sharing that. I'm going to send that to Max, actually, right now. I'm going to copy this photo, and as soon as I'm done here, I'm going to text this to Max Kellerman, say what's up to him. But I think he'll enjoy seeing that too, because I do think we were ahead of our time with that. And do I follow you? I follow you now. Thank you for that. I do appreciate it. And thank you guys, as always, for joining the show, joining the chat, helping me. Like, this show would be not as long if you guys weren't in the comment sections. That's for sure. I got my Wednesday night basketball, so I'm going to try and be on time for that and let off some steam there. I'll let you know about tomorrow, but since you guys said I maybe could take the day off, and I am doing the show from the city from 3 to 6, I'll make it dependent on what's going on tomorrow. If there's something I really want to talk about, I'll hop on. If not, I may not, but I will be back at worst on Monday here in the normal slot or close to it. I've been running into Raw on Monday, so maybe I'll tweak that a little bit, but we'll figure it out as we go. And I will be on CBS Sports Radio tomorrow from 3 to 6. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you comment, make sure you share, and make sure you be well. Because I do, like, if you ever need anything from me or talk, hit me up on one of these platforms, and I will always get back to you, because you guys, it means a lot that you're in here every night. So until the next show, it will be on the same Robin time, roughly, and the same Robin channel. Peace out, guys.